Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is up? Oh, perfect. First and foremost, can we give Dr. Pamela Fox another round of applause? Oh, you want to give me the? Okay, I'll take that. Thank you. So how's everybody feeling? It's early. All right, so we're going to wake up, all of you. No, but we're going to have a good time. This is going to be a heavy conversation. I'm joking. It's not going to be that heavy. But we are going to talk. I'm excited and honored to be here in Dallas, Texas, to have the opportunity to talk to all of you. What I'm not going to do is try to dump a lot of information on you, because I believe that you already have the information. A lot of times we don't apply what we already know. Say amen. Amen. All right, so what I want to do is just to share a little bit about myself, and we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to share a little bit more on what I do with students and how I work with counselors and things like that. That sounds good? That sounds good. So driving in, actually, we went past so I didn't know you guys had a Six Flags out here. I didn't know you had a Six Flags. We have one in Jersey. I believe it's in Jackson, Jersey, but we have a Six Flags. And as we were driving by, I was thinking of my younger childhood. We have a place down in AC called Wildwood. I don't know how many of you, hey, there we go. Somebody have been to Wildwood. So am I good? Okay, good. Yeah, South Jersey. Yep, South Jersey. So I'm down in the Atlantic City area. So we used to go to Wildwood when I was younger a lot, like to the amusement park. How many of you are familiar with, so there was two rides that were, well, one ride that was actually really crazy. There was this one ride where you would jump and stick to the walls. You remember that? It's a bad idea. Why was that a ride? You know what I'm saying? Why was that a ride? But you would jump, and when you go inside, they would say, hey, look, don't flip upside down. The first thing we did was flip upside down. It was crazy. I don't know if that ride still exists, but it was terrible. But there was also, I don't know how many of you remember the glass houses. Have you ever been in a glass house where you had to walk and try to find your way out of that? I was watching a video once on YouTube, and there was a guy, and he was in there with his son. His son had to be like 5 years old. And he's calling his name. He's like, hey, Mark Henry, I'm over here. And his son runs full speed and just smacked the glass. And it was hilarious. But as I think about that, it's messed up. That's something I'll probably do when I have children. But as I think about that glass house, right, I think about my life. And I want to break this down to you. When you're in that glass house and you're in that, well, actually it's a mirror house, now that I think about it. When you're in that mirror house and you're there by yourself, everywhere you turn is you. Everywhere you turn. And for me, for so long in my life, everywhere I turned, I wanted to see a different image, but it just kept reflecting who I was in that moment. My story was one of running. That was my posture. I grew up down in South Jersey in the Atlantic City area, Atlantic County area. I bounced around from two different communities, one called Pleasantville, one called Atlantic City. I lived with my mom for a little bit. I lived with my dad for a little bit, with my aunts, my uncle, my grandpa, my grandmother. I bounced around from home to home. From first grade all the way into high school, I went to 9 different schools. So it was very challenging to really make friends, because you're bouncing around every single year to a new place. And within that, when I was younger, a lot of different traumatic things happened, as I'm sure many things have happened to you. So I'm not here to ask for sympathy, but I hope that you gain a better understanding, and then you also heighten your empathy for others. That's something I feel like we lost. We got so much information, right? We're in the information age, technology, we have all these different things. You can get so many different things, but a lot of us, we have turned off our empathy button. And my challenge is, and my hope for this entire symposium is that by the end of it, you will turn that empathy button on and you will apply what you know, right? So when I was younger, I was introduced to violence very young, gangs, drugs. I was actually molested as a kid, as a young male, which is interesting because for a young male, you think that it's the cool thing when an older woman comes into your life and does these things to you. But the reality is, it's very, very, very uncomfortable and traumatizing. So these were things that I dealt with as a child. And for me, my scapegoat was basketball. I don't know what yours was, but mine was basketball. I put everything that I had into the game of basketball. Whenever I felt anxious, worried, depressed, I'm going to go play basketball. And I ended up getting really, really good at basketball. To be honest, it became one of my loves. But again, it was just a scapegoat. It was an outlet. And at some point, it has to end. And I have to address these issues. But there were no safe spaces. And I'm going to talk about this during the second half of the presentation, safe space creation, because that's what I specialize in, is creating safe spaces for students, for you, for different individuals to just talk and open up. Because the reality is, everybody's not going to go to therapy, even if it was accessible. That's the reality. But we can all create safe spaces in our homes, in our schools, within our workplaces. It's very simple, and I'm going to break that down to you. But for me, I didn't have a safe space. My parents weren't talking about mental health. To be honest, it was so stigmatized. We all have that one family member, right? For me, it was my uncle. It was one of my uncles, and he was the crazy uncle, right? And they called him the crazy uncle. Looking back now, you realize that he actually had real issues that we all ignored because nobody wanted to address what was going on. Everybody was silent. What happened in this house stays in this house. Look, y'all know, y'all finished before I even said it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. What happens in this house stays in this house. And that put us all, a lot of us, in a position to just suffer in silence for years. So I started to realize these things as I got older, obviously. Fast forward, I remember it was my 8th grade graduation. And graduation is a celebration, right? A big celebration, you, your family. I'm graduating, I'm going to high school, like I'm hyped. And my dad pulls me to the side at the graduation. Now, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, he got me some new Air Force Ones. Like, I'm hyped. I'm hyped, he got me this. Like, I'm so hyped. And he pulls me to the side, and he says, hey, look, I want to tell you something. I'm like, okay. I'm anxious, I'm ready to hear it. He says, so this is what's going to happen moving forward. He said, when you get to high school, some of your friends are going to drop out. Some of the girls are going to get pregnant. Some of your friends are going to prison. And some of your friends are going to die. It was so heavy. And I'm looking at him like, wait a minute, like, this is my graduation. Like, that was real heavy, bro, for whatever reason. But that was actually the reality of what was happening around me. Now, what he thought he was doing was preparing me for what would inevitably come. But he provided me no resources to be emotionally fluent whatsoever because he didn't have the resources. He taught me what he knew. The day after my 8th grade graduation, a very close friend of mine, his name is Jamal Smith, he was shot in the head the day after 8th grade graduation. He ended up surviving the head trauma. A year later, we were in high school, he actually got killed in the streets by his home. So this started happening quick. He was the first one. Next thing you know, I lost another friend named John. One of my close friends, Mike, he's actually in prison still. I talk to him now. Completely changed his life around, but he was in prison for a gun charge. A lot of the girls started to get pregnant. This was huge. This was huge because while I was in high school, they actually developed a teen center for young girls who were pregnant. It was so normalized. All of the trauma, all of the issues, it was so normalized that we started to just conform with it instead of fight against it. And I remember going through high school, doing my thing. I'm playing basketball, I'm doing well, my grades are good, I'm a solid student, but on the inside, I'm still struggling and suffering. On the inside, I'm still anxious and worried and breaking down every other day. But I kept it calm, cool, and collective. I was very chill. If anybody talked to you in high school, they would let you know that I was the laid back guy. All the time laid back. I just played ball, laid back, did my thing. Senior year, I get a full-ride scholarship to play basketball at a school called Lemoyne Owen College in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a Division II college. I went down. They gave me a full-ride scholarship. I won prom king that year. I won the school talent show. Like, I was popping, y'all. Like, senior year I was popping. I was that guy. They were literally calling me Mr. 08. I was like, But what no one realized was the mental and emotional struggle that I was still going through. When I was growing up, my Aunt Liz, she had a heart attack using the bathroom. She had 4 children. 3 of them came and moved in with us. So you got to think, it's her 3 children, which are my cousins. It's me, 2 of my brothers. My nanny has moved in with us now. And also my mom's dad moved in with us. This is a 4-bedroom home with all of us in this place and nobody working but my mom. And I remember her coming to me. She pulled me and my brother, my older brother, my younger brother, he's 28, pulled us in, and she said, we had to start packing our stuff up to get up out of here. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we got to go soon. And what she was telling me is that we were being evicted. With all of these people, no place to go, it was just insane. So it's trauma on trauma on trauma on trauma. Back to 8th grade graduation, I graduate. I'm the first person in my immediate family to graduate high school because my parents had me. And then my grandpa, he didn't have past a 3rd grade education. So for him, me going to college was a huge deal. You had to hear him around the neighborhood. Like, he would go around the neighborhood, and this is literally my grandpa. Oh, y'all know, Boo Man going to college. That's my nickname. Don't judge me. Boo Man going to college. Boo Man going to college. I'm going to drive him down there. He was so set on driving me to school. He was going to take me from New Jersey all the way to Memphis, Tennessee. Let me say it again, because y'all ain't feel it. From New Jersey to Memphis, Tennessee in an Astro van. He was so set on it. He was so set. We had it all planned out, the whole entire trip planned out. And I remember it was the summer leading up to me going to school, so I'm working out, I'm lifting weights, getting ready for the season. I'm playing basketball, and at the time I was staying at his house for the summer. I came home, and he was sitting on the couch like holding his stomach in a lot of pain. And it was a little weird because to me, my pop-up was like Superman to me. That's how I viewed him. He always had like a button-up shirt like this on. He had his khaki crease pants, his chacleta shoes. He had his hat on, and he was always like doing something with his hands. He was either breaking it. He would break stuff just to fix it. He was in the lawn. He was just doing so much stuff. He was always active, literally. That's how I seen him, just using his hands all the time to provide. Or he was always in the neighborhood fixing something for somebody else. So I'm seeing him in pain, and I've never seen him like this. I'm like, man, this is weird. So I asked my brother Josh, I'm like, hey, how long has Papa been sitting in here like this? He says, he's been like this all day since the morning. Like, when you left, he's been like this on the couch all day. I'm like, really? That's weird. So I go over to Papa, you okay? Oh, yeah, I'm all right. Real just old school. He's from Alabama. He don't want to talk much. I'm like, look, Josh, this don't look good. Like, I think we need to take him to the hospital. Now, if you know anything about men, if you know anything about black men from the South, they're not trying to go to the hospital. I'd rather die with some dignity on my couch than go to the hospital. But I wasn't letting it go down like that. So I went over to my brother, I pulled him to the corner, I said, Josh, look, he don't want to go, but we can't really give him a choice because we don't know what to do. It's just us here, it's him. This looks really bad. So I said, this is what we're going to do. Now, I played basketball. I just told y'all I started lifting weights, getting ready for school. So I'm getting a little stronger, putting a little muscle on. My brother played for a powerhouse football school in New Jersey called Holy Spirit. So he was already strong. I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to grab him. We're not even about to do this. We're going to grab him. I said, look, he can't beat both of us. We're going to grab him. We're going to throw him in the van, and we're going over to the hospital. So we literally, this is what happened. I went in, and I had just got my license. 18 years old, got my license, I'm driving. So I grabbed his stuff, I grabbed his insurance cards, I put them in my pocket. I said, all right, on 3. 1, 2, hold on, should we do this? And I'm like, hold on, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. All right, get your head in the game. All right, 1, 2, and we literally grabbed him. So to our surprise, he didn't even fight with us. He didn't fight with us at all. We got him, put him in the van, strapped him in. He ain't really say much of nothing. We jumped in, and I literally ran through 3 red lights, flying because he looked like he was in agonizing pain. You ever see that when somebody's around you, you see they're in pain, and you can feel the pain when it's like something you don't know what to do. So for me, I started to freak out. I'm driving through things, and we get to the hospital. I start making phone calls. I call my dad, I call my mom, I call my aunts. Hey, look, we're at the hospital. We're here with Pop-Pop. We're not sure what's wrong, but come quick. So the family starts rolling in. Everybody gets there. We're kind of settled in, talking, trying to figure it out. The doctor comes from the back, and he says, is this the Evans family? Okay, yeah, this is us. What's going on, doc? In my head, I'm thinking, okay, what's the symptoms? What can you give them? Is it antibiotics? Like, what can we do? He says, Mr. Evans has gangrene. Now, it's interesting, because when I tell this story in front of a bunch of high schoolers, they're like, okay, But you know a little more than some high schoolers, so cool. Cool. But me being naive as a high schooler myself, just graduating, I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? Like, are you giving him something so we can take him home later? Is he gonna be here for a few days? Like, what are we doing, right? Because he just had a stroke a few years prior. So I'm like, okay, what can we do? How can we get him out of here? How can we get him back on his feet? You know, Papa would love to be in the yard. How can we get him back in the yard? He said, no, you don't understand. He has a gangrene infection, and what's happening is it's eating away at his intestines. So this is why he was holding his stomach the entire time. It was literally eating away at his intestines. And he said, Mr. Evans won't make it to tomorrow morning. So go say your goodbyes. And I remember like my heart dropping in that moment, like, excuse me? Now you gotta think, I grew up around so much chaos and trauma, and I kept so much bottled in my entire life, right? Think of a Sprite bottle. What happens when you start to shake a Sprite bottle up and you start to crack that puppy open? What's gonna happen? That was literally how I started to feel on the inside. I felt like somebody was starting to like twist the top. Like my entire life, somebody was just shaking it aggressively like this. And I felt like somebody was starting to twist the top. And I remember going to the back room, seeing him, eyes all glassy yellow, tubes all in his mouth, and he had this look on his face like he didn't want to leave. And it hit me so hard, and I didn't have the coping strategies. I didn't have any level of emotional intelligence, fluency, anything. And I remember almost snapping in that moment. Not snapping in the sense of just going off, but it was something that snapped in my mind, and it was just like somebody just broke a straw, right? Somebody just broke a toothpick or something. It was like, and I blacked out. And I remember I went down to school 2 weeks late. I still went to school in Memphis, Tennessee. It was the first flight I've ever taken in my life by myself. I flew down there, I met the coach. The first night on campus, I met my roommate. They roomed me with a senior, which was crazy, first of all. I don't know who gets roomed with a senior as a freshman, but I had a senior. And first night out on the town, we're out. I need to go drink, party, smoke, whatever it is. I need to get my mind off of what's going on. And that became a cycle, a very just traumatic cycle. So much so that 3 months in, I was ready to leave school and come back home. Now, I had a full ride scholarship, like basketball scholarship. I didn't have to pay for room and board. I didn't pay for my flight. Like any of the things, I can eat whenever I want. They gave us stipends for work study. Like I had to pay for nothing. I just had to play ball and do well in school. December came and I told the coach, I met him in the office, I said, I gotta go. Because every other day I was having some type of anxiety attack and I would be super depressed on the weekends. And it was just eating me alive and I couldn't understand why. And I said, I have to go, I have to get out of here. So I forfeited the entire athletic scholarship that I had. And my parents couldn't afford, like they didn't graduate high school. They definitely couldn't afford to just send me off to college. I came back home, I worked a little bit, sent some money to my mom and things like that. I ended up going to a basketball tournament in North Jersey called the EKB. Played there, got a few different college looks, and I got another full ride scholarship. This time to play basketball in New Mexico. So I ended up in New Mexico. I know when people hear like New Mexico. I ended up in New Mexico at New Mexico Military Institute. It was a Division I junior college. So my plan was to play basketball for about a year and then transfer to like a Marquette or somewhere that was Division I. That was the plan. I got there. I was there for about a year, almost a year, but the same thing was happening. The same thing that was happening in Memphis, it followed me all the way to New Mexico. I didn't put two and two together. I didn't put two and two together that everywhere you go, there you are. It didn't make sense yet. I had to learn the hard way, y'all. This is a long process for me. I came back home after that, and I ended up, this time, taking classes in North Jersey at a school called Caldwell University. It was Caldwell College when I was there. The coach wanted to recruit me from high school. I got in contact with him. Hey, look, come out for the team. We'll get you on. Cool. Again, I'm using the scapegoat that I've always had, which was basketball. But I'm never addressing the actual real issues, the things that are going on with me. I get up there, I'm there for about a year and a half. Me and the coach aren't seeing eye to eye. I leave again. That's 3 schools down. Bouncing around from school to school to school, trying to outrun the anxiety, the stress, the worries, not realizing that I can just stop and address them. Nobody pulled me to the side. We didn't have this symposium. We didn't have me or you to sit me down and have these conversations. I constantly ran and I didn't use the resources that were available. I ended up back home, and I remember this time I was home, and one of my closest friends, his name is Clevens Exantus. We played basketball in high school together. And I came home to some very traumatic news that he had just committed suicide. Yeah. And I remember it was just hitting me so hard during that time. And that's when I got in a very, very dark spot for the first time in my life. Very dark spot. I remember being in my bedroom, literally thinking, it would be better if I wasn't here. Like, none of this is making sense, God. Like, I don't understand. And I remember literally getting in that dark spot. And there was a few things that saved me. One was actually writing. How many of you journal? So journaling was huge for me. I actually started to write a little bit and get some things out. The second one was a close friend. How many of you, I ask students this all the time, how many of you have a best friend? Or a close friend? Some of us don't have best friends. Do you have friends at all? All right, cool. I hope you got, if not, you're gonna leave with some friends. So one of my best friends, he's in the Air Force, his name is Tony Chapman. He lives in Florida. He was actually at my wedding last year. He actually came to my house. And this is the power in having people in relationships, people that you're close with. This is the importance of being close with students in a way where you understand them, where you have an actual relationship with them, where they don't have you on a pedestal. He came into my house and he seen something was off with me. And he wouldn't let it rest. He's like, dude, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. You know how we say, I'm good. No, you're not good. You know what? Let's get out the house. You're gonna come with me to the gym. Yo, I'm not going to the gym, Tone. Now, Tone kind of swole, I'm gonna be honest. Tone been lifting weights for a long time. So Tone is I gotta show you a picture, dude is swole. He's like, we're going to the gym. And I'm like, bro, I'm not going to the gym. Yo, we're going to the gym. All right, cool, I don't want no problems. You done said it twice and you got more bass in your voice, let's just roll. Because I'm not trying to wrestle with you in this house. I got enough issues going on mentally. So he takes me to the gym, and this is where things begin to transition for me. He takes me to the gym and he introduces me to two other men that look just like me. Two other men, I'm talking beards, these guys got tattoos. These are black men that look like me. And what we would do before we worked out, just how we're all here, we would sit in the locker room for like 30 minutes. We would sit in the locker room and we would talk. Now, we weren't talking about women. We never talked about sex, drugs. We barely even talked about sports, to be honest. We were in that locker room having very transparent conversations about what we were going through and how we were getting through. And I remember the first time it happened, I was like, okay, this is weird. What is going on in here? I remember that happening. I'm like, whoa. But over time, I started to get more comfortable and I started to be more transparent and vulnerable and open up as well. They really opened up that door for me. And that was the first time where I started to experience some level of healing. And I said, there's something to this, but I wasn't fully in. I ended up getting back into school, going down to Atlantic Cape Community College and taking some classes, getting my associate's degree, but at the same time I was playing basketball. Now, you gotta think about this. Schools wanna recruit me now. They wanna bring me in on their team, but I've been out of high school for quite a few years. I got a car note, I got car insurance, I got a few other bills. I don't know if the school's covering those. I can't play basketball for free anymore. So I literally forfeit all of my athletic eligibility and I go over to Las Vegas for an overseas tryout. I go for a week. My plan again is to put everything into basketball and not fully address everything that's going on. I play amazing, or at least I thought was amazing at the combine. I get home and I'm expecting some phone calls. I'm expecting some agents to reach out. A few days go by, nothing. Okay, I just got home. A few weeks go by, no call, no email. About a month goes by, no call, no email. So now the little insecure kid that lives inside of me is starting to rise up again, feeling unworthy, unseen, unheard. I can't get a call back from a scout. I put my all into this, constantly running, but again, never addressing the issues, addressing the real issues. I get an email out of nowhere that an agent from England wants to bring me in on the team. He's sending over the contract. This is my shot. This is it. I'm super excited about this. I get the contract, I'm hyped. I tell my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, look, I got this contract, I'm going. And I'm blessed to have friends who've played professional basketball. So I showed them the contract, like, hey, can you look over this and make sure that it's good, that everything's, copacetic, that the housing is good, that my pay is good, all of these different things. So everything is checking out very well. And then they get to the last page. And there's a clause at the bottom that says to send $2,500 over as a deposit for your stay. I'm like, man, that's weird. If you're recruiting me, Why would I pay you anything? If somebody wants you, if you ever play sports, they'll do whatever it takes to get you there. You never send anything. So I was like, oh, maybe it's a typo or something. I'm just naive. So I reach back out. Hey, look, something on the last page, this clause, what's that about? I get no response. I come to find out from the agency who did the overseas tryout that somebody hacked into the system and was actually scamming players out of money. I happen to be one of the players on that list. Now, thank God I didn't send any money, but imagine what this did to me mentally and emotionally. Not only can I not get a call back, but I gotta get scammed too? Like, this is crazy. I ended up home, again, just in a deep, deep, deep depression. I was playing basketball at the local rec center. I went up for a dunk and somebody undercut my legs. If you ever play sports, somebody undercut your legs, you can fall and it can be real nasty and ugly. For me, I only twist my ankle. So I had twisted my ankle and I'm like, you know what? That's not that bad. I can go ahead and rehab this. This is fine. Now, I don't know if you can tell, if you can all see me up here, I'm actually bow-legged and pigeon-toed. You can't really tell. I've adjusted it. 31 years, I've adjusted it. Because it used to be like on some real Tommy Pickles like this. Like it was bad. It was bad. I'm not going to lie to you. It was bad. It was bad. But I've worked on it over the years. I got to think when I walk. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm thinking. So I remember rehabbing the ankle and there was no longer any pain in it. But then I realized there was also no feeling in the bottom of my foot. And like any normal human, I started to freak out. I'm running a pin on the bottom of my foot, like there's no feeling in my foot. Like, what is going on? So we ended up going to the orthopedic surgeon or to the doctors and checking it out. I found out that I tore a bunch of ligaments in my ankle. And I had to be in the boot and I couldn't play basketball. So the one thing that I used as my scapegoat has now been taken away. And it was the first time I actually sat there with the thoughts that I was having. I don't know how many of you do that, but I challenge you to sit and just think about what you're thinking about and ask, why am I thinking about this? I remember seeing the thoughts like, why am I saying this to myself? Where did that come from? How did this happen? And in that moment, I decided that I wanted better for myself because I grew up in pain, trauma, worry, anxiousness, all of these different things. I knew what that side felt like, and I made a decision in that moment with that boot on that I wanted to see what the other side felt like. Now, I don't know what's over there. I'm kind of scared of it, but look, I know what this feels like, and I don't like it. So I started to go on my actual healing journey. I got back in school, went to go get my bachelor's degree, finished out at Rowan University, and I was driving home one day. From school, and my pastor called me. Now, prior to this, I said I wanted to make this whole life change. So it was two things. I wanted to start going to therapy and I wanted to get baptized. Those were the two things, right? I wanted to do those things. I said, I'm gonna commit to this stuff. You know how we get emotional, we wanna commit to stuff and then we don't do it. That was me. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. Like, I'm changing my life. This is the moment. And he called me. And when he called me, he said, hey, is this Nate? I said, hey, what's going on, Pastor Steve? He said, yeah, we got baptisms this Sunday at 10:30. Can you make it? I was like, it got real quiet on the other end of the phone. And all I heard was, hello? Hello? And I was thinking, I'm like, man, it's amazing how we know the right decisions to make when it comes to our mental health, to our physical health, to our well-being, but we don't make them. You know the decision. You have the information. I was in that crossroad moment where I knew the right thing to do. I knew what I had wanted to commit to, and I almost didn't do it. And I caught myself. I said, you know what? This ain't the right time for me to do this. I need to work on and I caught myself and I said, the fact that you think this isn't the right time means it's the perfect time. Absolutely, it's the perfect time. So I said, yeah, I'll be there. So I went through that. I went through with that. And then shortly after that, I started looking for therapists and I found a few. I'm on my third therapist now. Look, keep going till you find the one that fits you. I always say that, especially to my young men and my young women. Keep going, keep going, keep going. It won't be the first one every time. So that's what I ended up doing. Now, the power in this, and after this, we're going to take a quick mindful moment. I want to close here. The power in me doing that, being the trailblazer. So I'm already first-gen high school grad, first-gen college grad, first-gen entrepreneur, all these different things. When I started to care for myself and started to take care of myself, what happened was this, and it was just huge. It's going to change my family forever. My dad started going to therapy. My mom started going to therapy to go on their own personal healing journey because somebody stepped up. I could have easily not done that. And it's not that they need permission from me to do it. They don't. But sometimes people need to see someone that they know and love take the first step to take care of themselves. That's why I'm big on action. We can give you all the information you want. It does not matter if you do not apply it. So for me, being the trailblazer and applying the things that I knew and the things that I wanted to get done, and I wanted to improve my mental health and my emotional well-being, it encouraged all of them, and now we're all doing the same as a family, so we don't continue to carry this generational trauma into the next generation. So something I love to say is that your story is about you, but it's not for you. It's for someone else. Each and every one of us, we have a story. Maybe it's not as traumatizing as mine. We're not here to do that. That's not what this is about. But you have a story. You have people who are watching you. You have people who look up to you, whether they say it or not. You have to do what's best for you. That's going to encourage somebody to do what's best for them. So again, for me, share your story, right? Share your story.